Hi and welcome everybody to another episode of Latif's Inspired. Today I'm going to show you how I make the chicken bhuna at your local Indian restaurant. I'm going to be using the pre-cooked chicken. I've already done a video on how to cook the pre-cooked chicken and how to keep it moist. I gave you my little tips, and I also said to keep it in its stock so it stays soft, tender and succulent. Also cooked, I gave you the timing on how to cook it and how to preserve it. So today I'm going to be showing you a very simple method how we cook the chicken bhuna at your local Indian, and you can do at home. Right, so I'll put my gas on a medium-high heat. So I've got one chef spoon of ghee. You can use at home 1 tablespoon. I think that's heated up beautifully. Right, little tips. This is the Shahi Zero, which is the cumin. This is a bit smaller and it's more fragrant. For pilau rice and everything's fantastic. And this is the cumin seed, which is a bit larger. I'm going to be using this one because it has a bit more earthier flavour. This is more fragrant, the Shahi Zero, and this is just a normal cumin. So this is the one I'm going to be using. I'm using a good pinch of cumin. Now this is onion seed, nigella seed and so on. So I'm going to be using a good pinch of this. This is not necessary, you don't have to do it, but this builds a fantastic flavour. Normally in Indian restaurants, our bhuna onion is done like this. So we just pre-cook it and use it for service because we need to be very fast. So if you want me to make a video on how to make the bhuna onion, please let me know. But if you're at home, follow these steps which I'm going to be doing today. It's going to be more flavoursome. I'm going to put the heat up a bit high because I want to hear this snap, crackle and pop. Right. Again, this is optional, but if you're doing it at home, this is going to bring out a fantastic fragrance. So the tezpata goes in, Indian cinnamon. So that goes in, cardamom pod, smash it before you put it in. There you go, or just cut it open. That goes in. Right, I can hear that. This is 1 medium onion that I've just sliced up. Right, the onion's sizzling away beautifully. Now all I want the onions to just sweat down and just soften up slightly. And once it's slightly softened up, then I'm going to go to the next process. And obviously to make sure this is cooked faster, you could have used a bit more ghee. But I know my lovely viewers are very health conscious. So I've just used 1 tablespoon, which I've shown you. But to get it more flavoursome, add a bit more oil. You know, a curry for a little treat is no problem whatsoever. Some of the onions are becoming nice and golden. That's what I want. So I'll give it a little bit more time, just get it slightly more golden. Don't cook it too much on a high heat at this point because you don't want the you don't want the onions to have a burnt flavour. You can also add a drizzle of water if you're using less oil, which I am, so this should help. That should just help the onions soften up and caramelize. Right, this time I've got a small teaspoon, guys. Now this is my ginger garlic mix. I will be doing a video on the ginger garlic mix. Unfortunately, I've had a issue with my blender, so I'll do that next time. That was 2 teaspoons of the garlic and ginger mix. Obviously, once I do my mix, you can follow that. But if you're doing your mix at home, then just use 50-50 garlic and ginger. I use a bit of green chilies, coriander, peppers, and so on. Just for it just has a nice fragrance, also a nice flavour. There you go. The onions are caramelizing beautifully. I'm just going to add a little bit of water. The onions need to soften up a bit more for my liking. But if you don't care about how oily your curries are, just make sure when you're at the starting point, add maybe 2 tablespoons. It's no problem. So midweek treat or a weekend treat is not very harmful. You can go to the gym and work it out. Right, so the onions have caramelized beautifully. I just got 2 green chilies. So what I'm going to do is just take the tip off. This releases its spiciness. There you go, that's 2 of them. Couple of wedges of tomato. Spices are right. I'm using half a teaspoon of chili powder, half a teaspoon of turmeric powder, half a teaspoon of cumin powder, half a teaspoon of coriander powder, and half a teaspoon of garam masala. This is my spice mix. 1 heaped teaspoon of curry powder. You can use generic curry powder, no problem whatsoever. So that goes in. I'm going to be using some tomato puree. This is my big massive batch. So a good heaped chef spoon. If you're at home, 1 good tablespoon. Now the spices needs to waken up in this hot oil. Nice mix. Again, a drizzle of water. I'll put the heat on a low heat. I just want the spices to cook slightly. Now this is the pre-cooked chicken, guys. It is nice, tender and soft. I've taken it out of the sauce because I'm going to add it to the curry or the stock. You can add a bit of the stock, is no problem, but because in the stock I've got the salt and everything. Talking about salt, again, I forgot to add the salt, so I'm going to be adding 2 pinches of salt. This is the kasuri methi. A couple of pinches of kasuri methi. Now I've got about 1 breast in here. You can add 2 breasts, so about I've just cut it into pieces, so that's about 8 pieces of chicken here for 1 portion. That's normally fine. You can add, you know, 16 to 18 pieces on this spice is perfectly fine. Just use a bit more oil, a bit more onions. Spice should be fine, and obviously more or less on the salt. So I just want the spices to cook with the chicken. Now that everything's sort of cooked, now I'm going to add about 250 ml of base gravy. If you don't have base gravy at home, just add a bit of water. It'll be perfectly fine. But to get that thick Bhuna style curry like you get in an Indian restaurant, they always use the base gravy. So use the base gravy. And again, It's also on my channel. I'll try to remember to put a link to it, how to make the base gravy. There you go. Now let this cook. Right, the curry's all cooking away beautifully. Now it's just been about a couple of minutes since I put the base gravy in. Beautiful, look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. Now I always say make sure it has a nice custard consistency. But this is a Bhuna, and what Bhuna is meant to do is reduce down and just be very thick. So the sauce should be sort of sticking onto the chicken. There you go. Now remember, have a little taste, see if this the salt and everything's fine. Yep, for me that's beautiful. So chicken Bhuna, very nice and simple. Now for flavour you can add a few things at this minute. I'm not going to. I'm just going to do it very nice and simple like this. Right, I think that's thick enough. There you go. Right, that was my chicken Bhuna, Indian restaurant style, at home. So if you follow these steps, you should get this fantastic flavour. It's a very subtle dish, it's not overpowered, just a simple chicken Bhuna. I've used nigella seeds, cumin seeds. You don't really have to, but I believe it does bring a nice, beautiful flavour to it. So if you're doing it at home, please try it like this. And once again, if you've enjoyed the tips and like my videos, don't forget to like my content and share to your friends and family. And most importantly, make sure you subscribe and show me some love. So thank you very much, really appreciate it. Love you all. Thank you.